that journey into part of the Ukraine that she met the other in a penal military prison type place.
Uh-huh.
And there was a situation there, but interestingly enough, I think the other really got someone had been praying for her, I think, that brought them together, because Macon had been through something horrendous in the previous books, and she needed something from this man to pull her soul back together, I think, because she was very seriously damaged in an earlier story, and she was still in recovery. And it just so happens that there was a Father Demiri, which was a Romanian Orthodox priest that was praying for her. And, you know, he was directing part of this from the background. You know, you find out later that he had more of a hand in it than was originally known, but he was praying for her and trying, and so gentle with her. And, you know, that made a profound impact on her life. Now, she came to accept Jesus as Lord later, but without Father Demiri to be there so kind and so gentle to her, it would have been a lot harder for her to open up finally when she did.
Oh, wow. Out of curiosity, how big a book is this?
How big of a book?
Yeah,
Novel length?
Yeah, length roughly.
Silently is about 77,000 words. Writes is about 133,000.
Okay. So we're looking, a couple-day read?
Writes would probably be a couple of days. You could probably do Silently in a day.
Wow. So have you done a lot of research on this before you start writing the books, or, just, on the facts? Because...
Well, I didn't research them to learn them. I prayed for them and cared for them and loved them to learn them. I think, strangely enough, when I'm writing, I'm on their side of the fence looking out at humanity, which is kind of weird for me. But I'm more on their side of the fence than I think I'm on yours.
Okay. Like the one guest I had on, if you don't mind talking about it just for a minute, and then we'll get back into yours,
Sure.
Like he would say that, they would come over every day, and then, he would either cut them or they would, sacrifice their blood to him. And he said he actually said to the point he had problems going outside. He was allergic to, the sunlight. And I don't know, it got to a point where he was saying that he craved it to the point that if his friends didn't come over and, donate the blood to him on a regular basis, that he was scared that he might go out looking for it the other way. So, maybe the standpoint of, vampires, like from the movies, to somebody is drinking blood for their only way to exist, and then having cravings so bad that if if his friends didn't give it to him, that he, had cravings to go out and get it. And that's the part, to me, it was a little bit scary talking to that gentleman.
Well, a craving is one thing, like, you might crave a slice of chocolate cake, and that piece of chocolate cake is calling you because it's in the refrigerator. But you don't have to eat the chocolate cake, but you're craving it. There's a difference between craving and the kind of ultimately physical pain that a vampiric person would go through on blood withdrawal. Now, did he say how much he drinks?
No, he did not. But he said that, that's the only thing he existed on. But what got me scared is, he said if his, girlfriend and his friends didn't come over, he said that he knew that he would not be able to control himself, and he would have to go out and seek it. And he said he's found himself a couple times, where he almost did that. So that's the scary part, because, if somebody's out there actually looking for blood and drinking it that way, to me, that is a true vampire.
When you are a vampiric person, you have your blood needs. It's sort of like, I try to explain it this way. For a person, your body has an addiction to oxygen. If someone tried to cure you of your addiction to oxygen, you will die.
Oh, yeah.
If this gentleman you spoke to is truly vampiric, and his body... Now, I can't quite tell enough from what you've told me that this, it sounds like he's either pretty deep into it or he's truly vampiric. If he's only existed on blood for that amount of time, he probably is my guess. But like I say, they are compelled to get blood. And if it's withheld from them, that makes the urge that much stronger. It's not like you're resisting the piece of chocolate cake in the refrigerator. It's an urge like their insides will hurt if they don't get it.
That's the scary part, because he said he's been doing it well over 30-some years. And, he said the cravings can get so bad that he thinks about just walking out of his apartment, and he can't hold a job down. So I didn't ask him how he survived financially, but he said he's pretty much stays in his apartment 24/7, just because of one, he said he's very light-skinned, and he goes outside, and in the sunlight, he develops a real bad rash. And he said all that started after drinking blood for a long period of time.
It sounds like he came on what I'm guessing is like the gloominess pathway, like Stephen changed. Because Stephen had an urge to drink blood, because his father was also a blood drinker, and Stephen didn't know it. At least not till he turned 15. But, it sounds like he sort of grew into it, and then his body adapted to this way. Now, to make it a little more clear, there are human blood drinkers. Like, they watch Dracula on TV and they decide they want to be Dracula. Or they watch... They join a vampiric community, and there are such things where people sit around and they drink blood recreationally. But this gentleman you're referring to, he's already over the wall, because if blood is his only sustenance, and the thing I talk about blood needs is that as a vampiric person, you have to stay in front of your blood needs. You can't let them push you. Because when they start pushing you, you're going to go out and probably kill somebody. Now, I don't mean to make people afraid with that, but that's the responsibility that's sitting on your shoulder. The only thing on their mind is, I needed blood yesterday, I have to get blood today, I have to get blood tomorrow, where do I get it? And that's the only thing that's on their mind. Every day.
Yeah, that's what I got the impression from this person. I mean, that his whole life was basically making sure that he had blood all the time, that his cravings were so bad. I define willing victims that would come over and let him, cut and bleed him for the blood. That's the scary part. But then I always would be scared getting, some type of, hepatitis or AIDS or something by drinking people's blood. So I mean, I don't, unless they become immune to it. A vampiric person's body is a little bit different than yours. Their internal organs are repurposed. They are literally a blood drinker. Yeah.
Now it sounds like, I don't know that he's gone fully through the change, because I can't tell quite from your description, but, it sounds like he's on that path, But in the story, I described that they go through what they call the change. And
what is that? What happens on that?
The change. What happens?
Yes.
Well, in Thomas's case, she's fighting Dawn at the end of the first story, and Thomas is exposed to her blood because John cut her with a machete, and she was bleeding and trying to get him to shelter, and he was all cut up, so her blood got on his wounds. Thomas started, for one thing, he was tremendously thirsty. His body stopped, his bowel movement stopped. He would find himself in the night, he went home to his parents' house, he would find himself, having lucid dreams, but he would wake up in the night and maybe sometime he would either cut himself or stick himself with a nail and he'd be bleeding. So his body was forcing him to get blood even when he was asleep. And his happened to be the handiest, so he would wake up and having stuck himself with a nail. Thomas's change was reactive, which means he was an older person when he changed, and so his change was coming rather quickly. Macon's problem with all of this is that she thought that he would die, because at the time Thomas was 24 years old, and typically in her experience, 22 was the oldest person that she'd ever known to have gone through the change. So there's like a window. If you're too young, you can't change. If you're too old, certainly older than 25, you can't change because it would kill you. So there's a narrow bandwidth there that, you have to be a certain age. You can't just be an older person and decide to do this.
Oh, wow. That kind of, but, in your book, even from what my guest said, that kind of really fit in from what he was pretty much saying, that, he started out as basically a pre-teenager craving blood, and then became a teenager, then actually, seeking blood. And then, and now the gentleman, I think he's like in his 40s, and he's been drinking blood since a teenager, for food. I mean,
for sustenance.
That really scared me. And also, it really scared me when he said if he didn't get it, his cravings were so bad, as if something happened to like one of his friends that would come over and donate, he would go out and seek it. But evidently, I asked him, and he said he has no problem with willing people to donate blood. So,
well, they're very persuasive. They have to be.
Yeah.
And thank God for those that can get it without killing.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how you can convince somebody to sit there and come over on a regular basis and donate blood. That's I don't know if it's mind control or they're into it themselves or what.
Well, certainly the relationship would help. It sounds like a very engaging person, because certainly if you're going to have friends and a circle of friends like that, I would think you'd need at least 30 to rotate through on a regular basis. That's just a guess.
Otherwise, they'd be dry blood.
The trick is it's not all that much, especially if he can get it on a regular basis. Like these milk cartons like you have in school, those little half-pint things. Well, a typical vampiric meal, according to what I understand, is 3 or 4 of those. Okay,
a day?
Yeah, or at least every other day.
Okay. Wow. I wonder what causes it, though. I mean, to somebody to crave it, even like in your book, in your stories, I mean, I mean, what would cause somebody